Obama sold out America and the press covered for him. What do I mean by that? Well, according to a British journalist, Gerald Warner, we learned that Barack Obama is holding a fire sale of America's nuclear defenses in Moscow. It's unbelievable. That's such a big story. The fact is, he's agreed to reduce the number of American nuclear weapons. This at the same time that we have the greatest threats in a generation. North Korea firing missiles at the U.S. China encouraging them or letting them to do it. Iran on the way to getting nukes, and Obama just gave away the store. It doesn't look like the public is being fooled. I showed you that. A recent poll says that 64% of Americans thought that there was too much Jackson coverage. Hello? You're not alone listening to the Savage Nation. You're amongst the 64% who said the man was a pedophile and a stinker. The public hates the media. And there's also an article called J'accuse England, J'accuse America by Dr. Ellis Washington, who has compared the case of Michael Savage being banned in Britain and linked with the worst people on earth to the Dreyfus Affair. What's the Dreyfus Affair? Keep listening to the Savage Nation and you'll learn a little history. I don't know if you know this, but Obama has given away the store to the Russians. He's agreed. Well, let me back up. While you were dancing to Michael Jackson's idiotic tunes, Obama has agreed to cut back on nuclear weapons during one of the most dangerous times this country has faced in decades. You certainly didn't hear about it because of the endless Michael Jackson coverage and cover-up. But Obama's agreed to give up a third of our missiles. In case the empty suits forgot about it, here it is again.
We have taken important steps forward to strengthen our security through greater cooperation. President Medvedev and I agreed upon the need to combat the threat of violent extremism, particularly from al.qaeda. And today we've signed an agreement that will allow the transit of lethal military equipment through Russia to Afghanistan. This is a substantial contribution by Russia to our international effort, and it will save the United States time and resources in giving our troops the support that they need.
But wait, it gets worse. It sounds as though Obama, the leftist, is laying the groundwork for a whole series of agreements to weaken us. Listen.
Thanks to Admiral Mullen and his Russian counterpart, we've also agreed to resume military-to-military cooperation between the United States and Russia. This provides a framework for improved cooperation and interoperability between our armed forces so that we can better address the threats that we face, from terrorism to privacy.
You see, Obama is living in a fantasy world, a world of anti-Vietnam protesters and calls for nuclear disarmament. He's trying to make peace with a country who won't lay down their arms while we do, and who will stab us in the back if we're not careful. He keeps going. Play the clip.
President Medvedev and I are committed to leaving behind the suspicion and the rivalry of the past so that we can advance the interests that we hold in common. Today, we've made meaningful progress in demonstrating through deeds and words what a more constructive U.S.-Russian relationship can look like in the 21st century.
Leave behind the suspicion and rivalry of the past? Mr. President, as usual, you're being dangerously naive. Putin is not naive, and he's ready to take advantage of your naivete. Obama is selling out America again, agreeing to cut back American nuclear missiles by 1/3, showing weakness before our enemies who have nuclear weapons, such as Russia, China, and North Korea, and to those who are seeking nuclear weapons, such as Iran. For America to reduce its nuclear stockpile and to take down its superiority is total insanity. We are facing a global situation where nuclear weapons are proliferating. There are nukes in Pakistan, which now is on the verge of falling into Islamo-fascist control. Now is the worst possible time for America to disarm, and yet that's exactly what our college professor president is doing. Did you hear me? As of 2007, Russia had a superiority of 2,146 land-based nukes to our 1,600. This is counterbalanced by a U.S. superiority in sea-launched and air-launched U.S. warheads. But the bottom line is that Russia is now in the lead in ICBM development, not America. Why would they be developing ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, meaning aiming them at another continent? We've handed our hopes for the future to our PR men and taken it out of the hands of our generals. Obama doesn't care about American security. All he wants is a feel-good news conference and a photo op to rally his far-left base, who still maintain peacenik delusions of the 1960s. This appears to be his first step. Undoubtedly, Obama will sacrifice the anti-missile shield in Europe, making our allies defenseless against a nuclear Iran. And at home, we still can't trust Russia. They stand as a roadblock to action against Iran in the UN. They act with China to shield the madman in North Korea. And we have no way of verifying that they will cut back on their own missiles. Obama thinks he's acting for peace, but what he's doing is taking us apart piece by piece. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing the sellout of the United States of America. While you schmucks were dancing to Michael Jackson's funeral, your president, Barack Hussein Obama, held a fire sale of our nuclear defenses in Moscow. Make no mistake about it, this is unprecedented. We are putting ourselves at risk if we permit this to go forward. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Does the president have the sole authority to act on the behalf of the American people without any congressional approval? Are you living in a dictatorship or are you living in a democracy? I'll let you decide. The fact of the matter is I am not the only one who is saying this. There's a superb article by a British columnist named Gerald Warner who wrote exactly what I just said. And he said, no apologies for posting consecutively on Barack Obama. The Looney Tunes president's sellout of U.S. and Western interests is proceeding at such a speed that it is difficult to keep pace. Well said, Niall Gardner, for asking if Barack Obama is the most naive president in American history. The answer is yes, unless he has a secret agenda to cut America down to size. Listen carefully what I'm talking about, because I'm going to tell you liberals something that you're finally going to understand. Just as I coined the phrase, microbes do not discriminate, way back in my book, Maximum Immunity, when I was writing about the AIDS epidemic and other epidemiological illnesses, I said that microbes do not discriminate. It's been copied by many, but I created that phrase. I also will tell you that nuclear weapons do not discriminate. When they come flying in without a missile defense shield, they won't know that you're a good fellow communist or a good liberal. They won't know that you're locked in amber. They won't know that you still wear your tie-dyes with pride. They won't know that you're an enemy of America. You'll go just with everyone else. Read the article. He said it was always in Russia that Obama threatened to do the most damage. And he said his supposed missile deal with Vladimir Putin is very satisfactory to Russian ambitions and realpolitik. And then you could read about the nuclear power balance and what this really means. And then he writes this: for America voluntarily to reduce its nuclear superiority is madness. Beyond pensant talk of a nuclear-free world displays total stupidity in a global situation where nuclear weaponry is proliferating, not receding. There is even a nuclear bomb in Pakistan, which is teetering on the brink of failed statehood at the hands of Islamist insurgents. Is this a time for America to disarm, to sell the store, as one trenchant right-wing commentator has already described Obama's posturing in Moscow? Is it time to sell the store? For Obama's success is not the delivery of watertight nuclear security for America. It is a feel-good news conference and photo opportunity that will create huge approval ratings on liberal campuses where the delusions of 1968 and the anti-Vietnam War movement still linger on in these isolated Jurassic parks. It seems certain Obama will sacrifice the anti-missile shield in Europe that would have been our defense against a nuclear Iran after the Ayatollahs, with Russian help, emerge as potential vaporizing agents of the infidel. The interceptor missiles do not even carry warheads. They rely on an impact at 14,900 miles an hour to destroy any incoming missile. So Russian hysteria about this, quote, threat is synthetic. Where I disagree, and well, I don't want to read the rest of the article. Read it yourself. Barack Obama holds a fire sale of America's nuclear defenses in Moscow by Gerald Warner. It is from the Telegraph blogs out of England. It's up on michaelsavage.com. Combined with this, though, is a ray of hope. The ray of hope comes from the Rasmussen poll. The Rasmussen poll says Obama's approval index drops to all-time low. So apparently the American people are not gulled by the schmucks and the vermin in the media. The daily presidential tracking poll shows only 32% of voters approve of Obama's performance. Did you hear that? 32%, not 60%, as Wolf Blitzer, that vermin, talks about. It's 32%. And 37% disapprove of this fraud. giving Obama a rating of -5, all-time low. You won't read that, will you? But you schmucks were gold yesterday, weren't you? You putzes didn't understand when I was telling you why the vermin in the media were pushing this pervert in your face for days, this Michael Jackson pedophile, day in and day out. Why? All the while, it was planned that Obama was selling out America at the same time. Did you hear what I just said to you? If you think that there's no conspiracy between the government and the media, you're living in a dreamland. You belong at NYU. And if you don't belong at NYU, then you belong at an even worse campus. You belong at Harvard. This is the savage nation. Barack Obama holds a fire sale of America's nuclear defense in Moscow, and you were dancing to Michael Jackson's music. There is a concurrent article on michaelsavage.com from WND, which is entitled J'accuse England, J'accuse America. And in this article, Professor Washington